Hi, this is Christy from Crafty Christy's Creations, and today we are going to be etching glass using a stencil made with our Silhouette Cameo machine. Okay, so here we are in Silhouette Studio, and as you can see, I've got my professional wine taster SVG file opened up here, and I will put a link below to where you can download this one for free. And so the first thing I'm going to do is grab the entire design. So I'm going to do Control A to grab everything, and then I'm going to right click and make sure it's grouped, which it is, so that's good. So now everything will move as one, and we need to resize because the wine glass, you really only want them about 2 inches. So I'm going to lock my ratio aspect, and I'm going to change my width to 2.125. All right, and that looks pretty good there. And then since we're going to be making this into a stencil, we need to have a box. And I'm going to just draw a box here. And then let's zoom in here so we can see what we're doing. Okay. And then you want to make sure your box is a good size, but you don't want overly too much extra space. So I'm actually going to make this a little bit tighter, because when you're putting vinyl on a curved surface, the less amount of vinyl you use, the better this is going to work out. So I think I'm going to try that, and then I'm going to select everything and center that together. That looks pretty good. So this box here is going to be the cutout. So to make this a little bit easier, I'm going to get rid of that edge, but I'm going to give it a fill color. So since the vinyl I'm using is like a teal color, let's do that so you can kind of see. And then I'm going to, let's send this to the back here so we can see what we're doing. And then all of this black and our little wine glass here is what we want to etch. So we're going to take all of this, and then I'm going to come over to our modify panel, and I am going to subtract. And you can see it's going to leave these little holes there, but that's okay because we want to keep those. So now what I'm going to do is, with everything still selected, I'm going to turn that into a compound path. So now it'll move everything as one. So now what is going to be cut out is it's going to cut this square piece, and it's going to cut these out. And then where our gaps are at, that is what's actually going to be etched onto our glass. So now that I have that ready, let's go back to our page view. And I can move this up into my corner here, and then come over to the send panel, and then we'll just get everything set up here. So I'm going to be using vinyl, and this is the temporary vinyl, but I think this Oracal 651 setting should be just fine. And then you can see all the red lines is where it's going to cut. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in my machine and get cutting, and I will see you at the craft table. All right, so I've got my vinyl here on my mat, and we're just going to get that loaded into the Cameo. So I am using Oramask 851, and you already saw the cut settings we're using. So first I'm just going to do a cut test, since this is the first time I'm using this vinyl. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then when you do a cut test, you want to make sure that it's going to leave the triangle and peel up the square around it. So that's how you know that it cut all the way through. So I'm just going to pick up that little area and make sure it cut well, and it didn't cut all the way through the backing. So as you can see, it cut perfect. So now we're going to go ahead and cut the design out. Okay, so I went ahead and tried to weed out that piece of vinyl that you saw me cut, but as I went to add my transfer tape, I had all the little pieces inside the letters fell out. So here I am going to try it again, and this time I'm going to apply my transfer tape first. That extra stickiness from the transfer tape will really help keep my letters in place. So I'm going to apply that and peel up that entire design off of my mat here, and then I will reverse weed it, meaning I'm going to pull all the little letters out, and I think that's going to help keep the little parts that are the centers of the R's specifically in place. So real quick, we'll go through and weed out the letters again. This is kind of a reverse weed from what we're used to doing. Usually we're leaving the letters alone and taking the rest of it. But this time we're going to weed out the letters because that is what we want to fill with the etching cream. So you can see, even for more added durability and to keep things in place, I went ahead and added that to my mat to help me finish weeding out all those pieces. So now here is a look at our little decal here now that it's completely weeded. So I've got all of the letters pulled out of there, and again, that is where we are going to find the etch. So we're leaving the negative space for the etching cream, and that's what it'll read. So now I've got my wine glass here, and I'm going to clean it off with some alcohol. That's to get off all of the lint and fingerprints that might be on the glass. So I like to wipe down the entire glass just to make sure that I don't have any residue on there, and in case I spin it around later, I don't have to worry if I'm using a spot that was clean. And then I'm just using my rag here to help hold my wine glass in place while I go ahead and place my decal. So I'm just going to kind of bend this a little bit to help it sit right on the center, and then press down on the center. Now, normally when I'm applying vinyl to a curved surface like a wine glass, I'm going to cut all that extra vinyl away, but I don't want to do that for this one because I need that to protect my glass so that the etching cream only goes in the open areas. So I'm just going to take my time and press out all the little bubbles that are around the letters here and stretch that around as I need. And once I get it halfway decent, I can go ahead and peel off my transfer tape and then finish stretching out the actual vinyl decal to make it fit really well. All right, so I've got that all smoothed out there. You can see I've got some wrinkles in my vinyl, but it's not in areas where the letters are at, so it's okay. You want to make sure where the open areas are, everything is pressed down nicely, and that there's no wrinkles right by your letters, because that's where the etching cream will seep through and make things not look as crisp. So once you've got that done, we can go ahead and add some masking tape around our vinyl. This is just to protect the rest of the glass to make sure that we don't get any etching cream where we don't want it. So I'm just going to apply this on all sides, and you just want to be careful to make sure you're not actually covering up the open areas where you want the etching cream, because then you're not going to get that crisp look. So once you've got everything covered, we'll go ahead and gear up. This is an acid-based product, so I am wearing safety glasses to make sure I don't get any in my eyes, and then also some gloves. Again, it can eat away at the skin, so I want to protect myself. These are simple things that you could pick up at the dollar store, which I think is totally worth it to keep yourself protected. So once I've got my gloves on, we'll go ahead and pull in the etching cream. I'm using Armor Etch. This is one that's been pretty popular with a lot of crafters. So you want to just make sure you give it a good shake, especially if it's the first time that you're using it. And then even on the bottle, it's got directions. Make sure your glass is clean and dry. You want to apply a thin, even, and then you will clean it with some water when you're all done. So here we are, we're going to apply that nice thin layer, nice and evenly. And you can see I'm just moving my paintbrush in all sorts of different directions to make sure everything's nice and covered. I am using a bit of a stiffer bristled brush here, and I think it's really helping to make sure that I'm getting nice even coats. And then we'll let that sit for a couple minutes, and then you can see here from the back side, you can see a little bit of a different color to it right where all lines at. So now we'll go ahead and let that sit, and then we'll go to the bathroom and start rinsing it off. So we let it sit for a couple minutes, and now I'm just gonna clean off my glass here, and then also using my paintbrush to really clean out all those grooves. Cleaning my paintbrush at the same time. You don't want to leave all that goop on your brush if you plan to use it again. So once I've got that nice and clean, we can head over to the craft table and take a look at our finished product. Okay, so time for the final reveal here. I'm going to go ahead and peel off my masking tape and then slowly peel off that stencil. And it's going to rip and tear, not a big deal. Take your time, get the whole stencil off of there so you can see what a wonderful etching job you did. So just getting all these last little pieces peeled off of here, especially when they're wet, they don't always come off very easily. And you can see I've got some left there in the middle. I'm going to have to use my fingernail to kind of scrape up that last little bit. But all in all, this was a really easy project to make, and it took maybe 15-20 minutes. The longest part was probably weeding my little design. But now that I've got all that vinyl off of there, go ahead and give that cup a nice dry so we can see what the finished product looks like. And I know it's kind of hard to see on the screen, especially with the glare from the lights, but it turned out really nice. I do have a couple little spots where I should have been a little more careful, making sure that my vinyl was really in place, but for a first time project, looks great. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future how-to videos. If you're interested in purchasing the design used in this video, check out craftychristyscreations.com. Until next time, with love, Crafty Christy!